Kieran's pose and the leader's pose parallel each other. And probably my favorite thing to have spun from this is everyone like believing that the leader is now Kieran's dad, because it's come up with some very funny headcanons.
I think there's a lot to say for that. Remember that scene where we see baby, young Kieran and an older man that looks like him getting beaten up and he's running away. So maybe that is one of the incidents that radicalized Kieran's dad / the leader to become the leader, to become who he is. Maybe it was police brutality that made him be that way, that like pushed him over the edge and pushed him to terrorism. And maybe then, he took Kieran and like just was like totally merciless with him and training him to be a weapon. And Kieran, is very upset about that.
Welcome to the Story Tinker podcast, a place for in-depth analysis of stories, mainly from Webtoon. Co-hosted by sharp, witty, and dare I say, thirsty fans, we dive deep in every episode, analyzing character struggles, relationship development, and of course, theories. We also interview people working in creative industries. You can follow The Story Tinker on YouTube, podcast platforms, and social media. For bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, you can support The Story Tinker on Patreon. We're really appreciative of your likes, subscribes, follows, comments, and ratings on all platforms. Thanks for listening to The Story Tinker, and let's get started. Kieran, with his ever impeccable fashion sense, meets with the messenger to try to defend his lack of Lune killing. He faces down threats with jokes of his own, which may refer to his protectee as well as the beating he received. The messenger leaves, warning a sad-looking Kieran that he will receive a new mission from Apostle VII soon. We cut to the leader in the same position, at the head of a table full of apostles, all arguing that Apostle VII needs to be punished for his insurrection. Apostle VII plays it cool as a cucumber, pointing out that he has become both popular and indispensable with his work for the poor and his alliances. Finally, the leader has had enough of this back and forth. He reminds Apostle VII that he has agreed to become a monster for the sake of fighting bigger monsters, a line that echoes Kieran's choice. But he does not forgive betrayal, as he did not forgive Lauren's parents, and Apostle VII is unceremoniously dragged away as the leader orders Apostle IV to find and kill Sandman. Our final scene takes place in the underworld, where Kieran is trailing Flemings, only to discover that he is seconds too late to save him from a grisly death at the hands of none other than our favorite pink-haired assassin, Bella.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 114, Treacherous. Wait, what? Am I on the right episode? Treacherous Trader? Okay. Sorry.
Treacherous Tradeoff. There you go.
Tradeoff. Okay, fine. All right, Ocean, take it away.
All right, so we start episode 114 with Kieran being interrogated. And he says, "Well, Purple Hyacinth, it looks like you failed your mission." And we kind of knew this was going to come in the last episode, I think.
Mm-hmm. Also, Kieran's outfit, this sense of fashion.
Yes.
He's wearing a ruffle. I don't know why he's wearing a ruffle over that like collar, but okay, you do you, King.
He like, this is his way of making himself feel better. He knows he's about to like face a really stressful situation, so he's like, I will make myself look amazing so that I have that to comfort me.
Yeah, it's I think it was like a long time coming, because this is definitely like a good place to pick up with the Phantom Scythe, because in episode 111 we got the new measures implemented, and that was like the announcement, and so that made it kind of official and that made it public, and so that made it, we had to find out what the Phantom Scythe was going to do next, and this is like how we catch up with what they've been up to. And as we know, like Lune is supposedly dead, right? And there were a lot of questions about what would that mean for Kieran, because it was his mission to kill them, but an explosion got to Lune first before the Purple Hyacinth technically could.
I don't know why, but I really thought that they were going to be like, well, whatever, you did your best.
I guess you think they are.
Darn. One more thing about his fashion sense. I really got some pirate vibes here. Like, he looks great.
Pirate.
I really like his coat.
Yeah.
He has a couple layers. Like, he has that waistcoat and like a vest, and then this ruffle coat, and I think something underneath, right? Because it has threads, but there's still white underneath. And then the necktie. It's a lot.
Maybe he's cold. I don't know. It's like February at this point, so
True. So Kieran says, wouldn't they have been killed anyways? They spared me the dirty work by blowing themselves up, but I still gathered information on them. Getting a little sassy here.
yeah.
As always.
It's kind of like, yeah, I thought it was interesting because like was the Phantom Scythe consider his mission a failure? Because it's not really that he failed to kill Lune, it's just that he failed to kill them before they basically died themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
I think, like, what were you gonna say?
Sorry. Go ahead.
I think like the bigger problem here is that Lune really like messed up their supply with the nitroglycerin. I think that's what they're like most upset about.
I don't think, no, I'm pretty sure they're not upset about Lune with the nitroglycerin because the factory belonged to Apostle VII, and I'm pretty sure he was leeching off of the leader's supply of nitro, so it wasn't really like a Phantom Scythe organized, like in general Phantom Scythe. It was more like part of Apostle VII's mutiny. But I think the more serious aspect about Lune going after that factory is that it's put a much larger spotlight on the Phantom Scythe. So even if the larger Phantom Scythe and like the leader and the rest of the apostles were not associated with that factory, because the police don't know about Apostle VII's mutiny or and Apostle VII's plans, they just assume, you know, it's the Phantom Scythe rather than a subsection of the Phantom Scythe. And so they apply or they assess the situation and see like, this is what the Phantom Scythe is planning. And they are kind of correct, but they are missing some context for that factory. But anyways, what's important is that the aftermath of the factory has created consequences that are just going to make it much harder to operate in the Phantom Scythe. And we'll see the leader and the other apostles discuss it as we get further into the episode.
He says, you also have my report on that boring precinct in there. We'll see what Apostle IV and the leader think of that. And what can Apostle IV do to me that he hasn't already done? Getting extra sassy here.
Yeah, when I first read this line, it was definitely like an allusion to episode 91 when he got kind of beat up by Apostle IV's men. But I, as well as Minnie, I believe, on the Phantom Scythe server, we both also were thinking that this could apply to the person that Bella referred to that Kieran was protective over, because Apostle IV is in charge of espionage, so like assassins and like missions, and he's the one who organizes all the assassins' work. And so it is very likely that Apostle VII could have played a very large role in the fate of this person that Kieran was protective over, also known as like the protectee. So, you know, it could have been like some emotional or physical trauma.
That's sad. I feel like I think that if Kieran is thinking of that, he's thinking of that for himself, because I feel like he wouldn't give them emotional armor like that they could use against him. Like, I don't think he would acknowledge that he would try not to acknowledge that he has an emotional weakness. So I think that like his direct thing is the beating.
Yeah, no, that's what I got from it too. He's kind of like taunting him, like, if you're gonna kill me, like, I would probably already be dead by now. Like,
yeah, you still see the bruises on his arms.
Yeah. His next line definitely, like, it's an allusion to the episode 91, but I think it would still be interesting if there's like a double meaning to that, especially the emphasis on hasn't done already.
Definitely. He says, I must congratulate your men. I still haven't totally recovered from their beating. And like you said, you can still see the bruises, and he looks tired. Like, he just looks drained just from trying to like keep it together and act like he's fine.
He's like leaning down against the table. You know, when you're tired, you're like leaning like that.
I feel like you can see it in his eyes too. Like, the man is exhausted.
I feel that. Kieran is me this week.
Right. After the fiasco of the factory and the new measures imposed by the royal court, all of us will have to be more careful and act quicker.
Yeah.
So yeah, like what you're saying, like
Mhm.
they are more upset about like the fact that it's going to be a little bit more difficult because there's like a night restriction now for everyone in town. And then you see him walking away, leaving Kieran, and he says, "Expect to hear me again from me in a few days. Apostle 4 won't leave you jobless for too long. Purple Hyacinth."
So yeah, I mean, we kind of knew it was coming because like he didn't really like do much as the Purple Hyacinth in season 2, so he's kind of like he hasn't killed anyone as the Purple Hyacinth since like since the tower in season 1. So yeah, it's been a while, and I think it was kind of overdue. It was it's been a season, so but yeah, Return of the Purple Hyacinth. And I was gonna say something, but oh yeah, okay. I think when I first read this, I was like, they're gonna send him after Sandman. They have to send him after Sandman. We'll see. Again, there's gonna be more discussion of this later in the episode, but the last episode literally ended with like an attempted assassination attempt, or a second assassination attempt on Sandman, and it failed. And what we've seen with Sandman's assassination attempts is that the assassins are getting progressively more advanced. So the first one was just like a lone shooter. However, the second one was one of the trained assassins who like wore the same uniform that went against Kieran in episode 91. And so, the next level up from that would probably be Bella or Kieran, because Sandman's really becoming a nuisance. But also like a little far-fetched. I could also see the leader sending him after Lauren, because there are like some implied allusions to Lauren's parents later in this episode, and Lauren has been brought up to the Phantom Scythe before by Bella, so maybe if they deem her enough of a nuance, they'll send Kieran after her as well.
But I feel like that wouldn't happen only for story purposes, because Kieran was already sent to kill Lune, which is basically the same thing, right, as killing Lauren.
Yeah.
So I think that they wouldn't do it again,
Yeah.
I'm curious though, like how the leader or like somebody in the Phantom Scythe actually knows Lauren's parents. Like, I don't know, like obviously like they know them from the Snapdragons, but I wonder who it is and like how close their relationship actually was, or if they killed her parents. Like I'm excited to see that, and hopefully this season.
Yes. And the messenger, by the way, also has like a sense of fashion, like not as elaborate as Kieran's, but yeah, he's also wearing like a ruffle thing and neck, and trench coat, top hat.
Looks more like a merchant than a sailor. I'm going for Kieran. Kieran wins on this one.
Yes.
That's why.
For sure.
But yeah, this scene definitely made me sad, like thinking about Kieran like having to get another job and have to kill someone, and having to probably tell that to Lauren, and knowing that she's not going to be happy about that.
Yeah.
His face looks very sad, like when the messenger's leaving and he's just staring off in the distance. He does look sad, finally. And finally we get to see it. Kieran has always been like the flippant one who like doesn't let anyone see how things affect him. But now like nobody's looking at him except the camera, and we get to see him being sad.
Yeah, we forgot to mention this earlier, but I think it's kind of important to mention that the location that the messenger and Kieran are in is most likely the Grim Goblin, because there are just a lot of visual similarities to the floor and the walls from the location in episode 5. But also what I did notice, the table changed, and I can't remember in which table it's which. But now, okay, yeah. The table now has sharper edges, but in episode 5, it had round edges. But yeah.
Yeah, if it's the same place. It could also just be an oversight drawing wise.
Just different models, It's like the table is sus. So
I like what you said, Ocean, how he's going to mention it to Lauren, because I agree with you. I think that he will now tell Lauren about his missions. I don't think he's going to keep secrets from her like that anymore.
Yeah, because with the reformation of Lune, right, they didn't have to abide by the same rules that they had before, right? Where it's like, no personal stuff. But, one of Lauren's rules when they first created Lune in season 1 was that she didn't want to be involved with any of Kieran's Phantom Scythe business. So I do wonder if he will tell her about, what the Phantom Scythe sends him out to do, because, he told her about what he had to do as like the archivist, and that was like Phantom Scythe business, although it did overlap with her own personal life. So, maybe without that rule, since, this is a new era of Lune, he will actually tell her like whatever goes on in the Phantom Scythe.
And I feel like even if he doesn't tell her, I think that they've become close enough that she's going to know that he's distressed or some kind of like change or shift in his personality, and she's going to like subconsciously know it, even if he doesn't like tell her himself.
Yeah, I wonder, something else I wonder is how will Lauren react, because I guess it depends on who Kieran's target is, but I think Lauren at this point will not get mad at Kieran, because episode 90, when she had that talk with Sandman, about how even though it doesn't matter if the assassins don't want to do it, if they don't do it, then someone else will, right? So I wonder if she'll take that perspective into account, and we'll actually see her not get mad at Kieran, and her like be more rational, I guess, like in how she like just views the Phantom Scythe with like, a little more nuance, and she won't like get super mad at him, I hope.
A little bit more understanding.
Look at you standing up for Kieran.
I'm standing up for Lauren's character development.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm standing up for both.
And then it kind of fades into the next scene where we see what I'm thinking is a map of somewhere, and I think that they're somewhere underground, and you see the leader looking
Something very interesting that Phoebe from the Phantom Scythe server pointed out is that Kieran's pose and the leader's pose parallel each other.
They're right after each other. They're right next to each other. So that makes me think that maybe it was intentional.
Yeah. And probably my favorite thing to have spun from this is everyone like believing that the leader is now Kieran's dad, because it's come up with some very funny headcanons.
I think there's a lot to say for that. And here's my thing, which I also posted on the group. Remember that scene where we see baby, young Kieran and an older man that looks like him getting beaten up, and he's running away. So maybe that is one of the incidents that radicalized Kieran's dad / the leader to become the leader, to become who he is. Maybe it was police brutality that made him be that way, that like pushed him over the edge and pushed him to terrorism. And maybe then, he took Kieran and like just was like totally merciless with him and training him to be a weapon. And Kieran, is very upset about that.
Even if like even if the leader like isn't a biological father of Kieran, I think it's kind of like there is kind of, I guess, based off like Bella and Apostle VII's relationship, even though they're like very different, it's kind of like you see this figure and you don't really like this figure, but you do kind of like acknowledge that this person took this other person in, right, when they were a child, and they like basically adopted them. So I think Bella and Apostle VII's relationship is definitely more like father-daughter like than the leader and Kieran's relationship will be. But there is kind of like between Bella and Kieran that mutual thing of being like taken in by high-ranking Phantom Scythe members.
Right. At the very least, it seems very possible that the leader could have trained him, been the one to like kidnap him and train him. And that's why he's so upset at him, because he stole his life away from him.
Yeah. So that
would make sense also, that they have the same poses.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting to think about how Kieran is more concerned with taking down specific people within the Phantom Scythe rather than taking down the Phantom Scythe as a whole. And you really see this in episode 65 when he talks about like how like he doesn't want to actually take down the Phantom Scythe itself. He wants to take down the terrorists within it, because what the Phantom Scythe stands for, I guess like some of its values, not like all of them, because Kieran doesn't believe in terrorism, and I don't think anyone should believe in terrorism, but what Snapdragon campaigned for, and what the Phantom Scythe kind of trying to do, that being dismantling the class system, like Kieran does believe in that. And he does believe that there should be groups that, are able to advocate for these issues. He just doesn't believe that violence is the answer. And that's why he wants to take down the terrorists, which include the leader.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a personal vendetta against the leader too, which is why I would think that the leader kidnapped him and trained him, because I feel like it's a personal hatred for like what you did to me.
Or what he did to the protectee.
But yeah, that power pose of the leader is great. It's a great opening image. He's just in the chair, leaning back. He's got like his leg crossed over his knee. So he's relaxed in a position of power. It's a great opening image. And obviously his face is completely shrouded.
Now that you point out the body similarities, like I can almost like picture a similar face on the leader right now that Kieran has, like displeased, annoyed, upset, like it's kind of what I'm picturing now as he looks at everyone. And we don't know what they're saying. It's blurred out, but they're I know, I was like, oh come on, maybe if I zoom in I can read it. But it's really cool because you see the setting, and I feel like it's pretty clear that they're somewhere underground. You can see the lanterns for light on the walls, and some kind of overhead light there with a map. I'm not sure what that's a map to. Maybe like the underground or something, or like
maybe under the palace.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
I mean, that'll be a fun place for them to hang out. Right under the palace.
The irony of it all. But yeah,
you 7 apostles, right? And the leader. Am I counting correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought Josephine had a chance of being an apostle, but this for me was kind of like, oh, I guess not, because she cannot get out of bed. There's no way she could attend this meeting. Or maybe she was just retired as an apostle. But yeah, Josephine's kind of sus to me still. I could see her being an apostle, a retired one.
Retired apostle.
It's like, like judges on the Supreme Court, the only way you get out of it is if you retire or die.
Right. What a job, yeah.
Oh gosh. So scrolling down, we see Apostle, what is that, 9, talking. He says he betrayed all of us and cannot be trusted. We cannot move forward with a traitor in our midst. And at first I thought he was talking about Kieran.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, really, same.
I was like, oh no, not our little baby, our little pirate.
I was like, oh, they know about Kieran being Lune. I mean, Kieran was very bad at hiding it, but like, oh dang.
I know, I was so scared. I like to point out, I think it's really cool how all of their masks are different. It's not just like the Roman numerals under it. They all have like designs on there.
I think still, I hate saying this because I hate Apostle 7, but I think Apostle 7's mask is my favorite, with Apostle 4 being a close second. But like Apostle 7, he just like, his mask has eyelashes. Like, what is the material, girl? Like, he didn't have to have the eyelashes there, but he does, and that just makes his mask so much better than everyone else's. Like, especially compared to the leader, who's literally just a void. Like, their face is a void. Come on, give us some more,
Yeah, no, I think I like the simplicity of Apostle 11. It's just like that nice green stripe, But and then Apostle 11 says, we've always had very strict rules. What message will be sent if we let him get away with his mutiny? So they're clearly very upset with someone right now. And then
and the mutiny for me was kind of like, oh, they're talking about Apostle 7, because this, it's the factory, it's the aftermath of the factory, and so that was Apostle 7's doing. But I do wonder, like, did the other apostles know about Apostle 7's mutiny? Because the leader and Apostle 4 knew, but we don't know about the other ones. And so I wonder if the events of the factory is what finally got them to come together and be like, hey, this is something that needs to be addressed, or whether the events of the factory happened and the leader and Apostle 4 gathered the other apostles and were like, hey, yo, this is what's up. We're about to like kick this dude out, you know?
Well, if any of them were actually on his side, I'm pretty sure they're keeping quiet about it now.
Yeah.
It would be kind of weird if they like didn't talk about that. Like the leader and Apostle 4, you would think that they'd be a little bit more like open and kind of like, consolidated and be like, this is kind of a problem. Let's address it before it happens. Kind of weird. I don't know. I think the terrorists would be a little bit more organized, but I guess not.
I just realized Apostle 11 has like eyebrows, like little dots for eyebrows. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I see you.
I think it's like that above the eyebrow because there's a little line.
Yeah. Well, like there's like the eyebrow bone, right? The
little like shadow there.
Yeah, there's like 2 little shadows for each eyebrow.
See, 11 styling too.
Yeah. I like to think that the apostles all had like, you know, at the beginning of the PS, they all had like a little arts and crafts day where they made their masks. You know?
I want the green paint. I want to hog the green paint.
Exactly.
Apostle 3 was like, I'm gonna be as creepy as possible and bring my Joker energy.
No, I was gonna say Apostle 3 is like, I'm a lot like Joker from the movie Joker. I don't know if you guys know that meme, but yeah, I'm like, what was the reason for that smile? What was the reason in that tear? Like, it's giving go back to Hot Topic, you know?
He's just a psycho who loves to be cruel.
Yeah, a lot of people theorize that Apostle 3 is the apostle in charge of torture.
That makes
punishments,
sense.
especially since they're the Apostle 3 is the one talking about punishment. So
that, and like in a lot of like different cultures, like the teardrop is like a sign of like you've killed, like hurt a lot of people too. Eerie with that smile, but okay. And Apostle 3 says, surely he wouldn't without proper punishment, like the creep that he is.
Yep. It's like, let me do it.
Yeah. And Apostle 4 says, what do you have to say to defend yourself? Were you naive enough to think we wouldn't discover your little stunt?
So Apostle 7's in the room with them. Ooh.
Which I have to say, I think that's kind of good that it's kind of like a mini trial. You know, he does have a chance to defend himself and to speak. So more than I expected they would give him. I thought it would be immediate death, but it's a little bit democratic. Everyone gets to have a say.
Yeah. I honestly, like, I didn't know whether they would like straight up kill Apostle 7 because Apostle 7 is like Redcliffe, you know, a lot of people, it's pretty much confirmed at this point that he's Redcliffe.
Right.
So like
confirmed.
Yeah. So like, and he does fund like basically like the entirety of the PS because he's just so rich. He's like the PS's like sugar daddy. And you know, it's like that's not really someone that you want to kill off. So
I could see them doing some like weird lawyer stuff where they like transfer his funds to somebody else in the Phantom Scythe and just wipe their hands clean of him and get all of his money too.
Yeah, but like as mentioned later on in this episode, Apostle 7 does point out that he's very popular among the nobility, and so like that's another reason that they can't really kick him out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's pretty proud of himself. He says, guilty to the charge. I admit that I got a little impatient. 10 years with barely any real action would have worn anyone's patience.
It's a long time.
Yeah. And he says, but I'm sure you've been aware of my plans for a little while now, considering the technical difficulties we've experienced in the last months. So I like how he's calling them out about it too. Like, you've known about it.
Yeah. Is he talking about the like Kieran killing all the people that are involved in this operation?
No, I believe he's talking about Bella because she was sent to spy on him, right, from the leader, but she was also working on the operations with him. And so like, but no, oh my god, sorry. Okay.
Theory
I have to bring up I just went silent. I have to bring up Kieran theory, you know, Kieran, you know, because like The most technical, because Bella hasn't really caused that many difficulties that we know of for the operations. She's mainly just been reporting, right? She's mainly just been reporting information back to the leader on Apostle VII's plans, but she hasn't really done anything to really slow it down, besides maybe like killing off Sake. But even then, like his job was over. But yeah, the technical difficulties that they did have was like Lune and Kieran, right? So why would he be blaming it on the leader unless he believes that Lune and the leader are like associated or something, or that the leader sent Lune after him? I'm just saying.
I don't think
never.
he's on the leader, though.
I know, but he's like, I'm sure you've been aware of my plans
technically
for a while, right? Considering the technical difficulties we've experienced. Unless maybe he's referring to how a bunch of his people have been like, you know, jailed, right?
That's what I think. Jailed and then killed.
Yeah, but also I think that would be interesting if he suspects a correlation between the leader and Lune. And
okay.
yeah, because Bella hasn't really done much to count as a technical difficulty. It's been Kieran and Lune who's been really being the nuisance.
He could think that it's Bella and Kieran that are Lune, because they are very close.
But I think it's also general knowledge by now that one person in Lune is a police officer. So
that's true. That is true. And he says, yet you've kept me alive all this time for a very simple reason. And Apostle VII says, and what is that? Because if you kill me, it is not a simple protest you'll have to manage, but an entire insurrection. And he is very confident. Like, I really don't think he thinks that they would kill him. Like,
so I kind of viewed it the opposite. I viewed it as fake confidence, where he's like pooping his pants inside, but he's like faking bravado because, you know, he's just that kind of person. But yeah, it could be either way.
I guess it's a good thing they're wearing masks then, if that's the case.
I wonder, like, do they have voice modifiers in these masks or like something? Because like, but they're also like such close proximity then, like, how would they even be able to use it? Because like, you know, what happens if like they hear each other talk and then they go back to their normal lives, right? And they're not supposed to know each other's identities, right? They go back to their normal lives and then they like meet some people and they're like, wait a minute, you sound like very, very oddly familiar.
That's what I was wondering. Like, I was wondering, like, do they really not know who the other one is? Like, because they work together. How could they not know? Like, but there's no point in wearing masks in internal meetings otherwise. So I guess they're still trying to be anonymous. Which I don't get how they could accomplish it. They've worked together for so many years and they don't know who the other person is.
I think the masks, like even if they did know the identities of other people in the room, they would still keep the mask on because of professionalism, which is I think something that Apostle VII like mentions in episode 91 when he talks to Bella and Bella's like, whatever, and she takes off his mask.
That's definitely, and I'm sure like the apostles know who they all are, but I don't think that they know who the leader is. Or like if they do, like it must be like just like a select few. Like he must really stay in the shadows and not really like be in society with the rest of them. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Okay, so did we get to the insurrection line?
Yes, we just
I think Apostle VII would really like Facebook, but like I think it's interesting how like we didn't really know how popular Apostle VII was before. Like we knew that people backed his plan, right? And we knew that people were working with him, you know, especially like the factory. And, you know, especially after episode 104, where Lauren witnessed that Phantom Scythe member die, it was like, wow, these people are like, what I pulled from that was like, these people really believe in Apostle VII's cause, like not just the Phantom Scythe, but like Apostle VII. And, you know, they follow him to the ends of the earth. And, you know, it's not like a small group of people, but this tells us that like it's a big part of the Phantom Scythe.
Yeah. And I also think maybe he might also be referring to like, well, I guess they wouldn't necessarily know. I mean, I was thinking about the general populace, like the people, like the poor people that he's popular with, right? But they might not know that the Phantom Scythe killed him. They would be like, oh, well, he just died.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm sure your little spies have told you how popular my plan has become.
This line I really like because it's most likely a reference to Bella, right? Because that's the main spy we know of who's on Apostle VII from the leader. But, you know, Bella, there's a parallel between Bella telling the leader how popular Apostle VII has become, and then Darcy telling Lisbeth how popular Redcliffe has become. Because, like, in episode 110, she was like, Darcy was like, yeah, he's like unusually popular or something. It's like, I was like, that's very
soulmates.
Yeah.
Soulmates.
You know, girlfriends who tell their bosses how popular this toxic dude in their life is stay together, you know.
I'm not sure who said it, but they say, you've gathered quite the army of followers in the dark. And he says, I'm not the only impatient one among our ranks. I'm sorry, leader. I'm afraid I've stolen the hearts of many of your subjects. Would be...
Okay. Sorry. I just want to say that line. I feel like that line is going to feel like a new ship, you know? I've like stolen the hearts, right? I'm sorry, leader, right? The emphasis, right? And this is an original apostle. He knows the leader's identity, right? So I'm like, I see this, you know,
personal.
Apostle VII, yeah. Apostle VII has his daughter, Bella, and then leader has his son, Kieran, you know, and they're like divorced parents. With like joint custody or something, you know, awkward family dinners between Apostle VII, the leader, Kieran, and Bella.
I can see it. I wonder if this is gonna create like a whole new branch of the Phantom Scythe. If they're gonna be like a lot more violent than the already violent Phantom Scythe, and it's gonna create a lot more problems.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like the leader is definitely more moral, like is like going off some kind of morality system, even though what the leader does and what the leader's in charge of, it's like horrible. Like the leader still has some kind of like system that they're operating off of. It's a weird system, but it's something. Whereas Apostle VII is really just like, whatever, factory blows up, you know.
I'm not sure because I know.
Well, not really whatever, but like, you know.
What was it Kieran said, or other people said that, you know, a lot of people in the Phantom Scythe don't have the ideals anymore. I think it was in the bar scene way back, but I think the Phantom Apostle VII, he does, if I remember him correctly, saying like he wants the leader to move faster because he doesn't want the ideals to be realized.
Yeah, so from the Carmine Camellia arc, what I gathered from that was the leader was the idealistic one still, and so the leader was being very slow and cautious in how they were trying to achieve those ideals, whereas Apostle VII had gone to the point where it was like, you know, they didn't really care anymore, and they wanted violence, and especially like Kieran's talk about how he wants to stop the terrorists within the Phantom Scythe. But then this kind of like changed my perspective on Apostle VII more, because like Apostle VII is definitely like still very much violent, but they also still believe in the ideals that the Phantom Scythe was founded upon, but they're just violent in how they want to do that. And, you know, he's not patient, right? Like the leader is. Neither of them are in the right again, but like the leader is playing a very careful game of chess, and Apostle VII is getting tired of it.
That makes a lot of sense too. If he was part of the Snapdragons, he would still carry some of those morals, and you see like the terrorist group like evolving to get more and more radical and dangerous. So that would be really scary if and when Apostle VII and his little army there start blowing up all of the city.
Oh, I just remembered. Sorry, this was a bit off topic, but in episode 91, there were like 12 or 13 chairs at the table, and now there's only like 8. So I wonder what happened to those chairs, but it was definitely like, oh yeah, this is because this is the same location from episode 91. Yeah.
Finally let them be useful instead of just sitting there empty.
Yeah. Anyways, that was off topic, but yeah.
So yeah, he says, would be problematic if half of our men decided to turn against you. And you see the leader. What?
He's threatening the leader. He's
got guts.
Bold.
Power play.
Yeah. This is literally gonna be like shipping material. Like
well, yeah, it might be personal. I don't know.
Yeah. And Apostle VII says, all of them are fools to trust you over our leader. You've always been hungry for power and laurel since you've crawled out of your hole in Grey Chapel.
Okay, so like that for me was like, yeah, this dude is Redcliffe because, like,
wait, not Redcliffe. Oh, you mean
Apostle VII? Yeah, okay. Because like it was like, it was like 90% chance it was him after episode 91. Like how could it not be Redcliffe? Just like the way he talked to Bella and the way Bella like referred to like, I've been seeing you much more since like I started doing shows again, and Redcliffe founded the circus. And so it was like there were a lot of like connections to Redcliffe, but Redcliffe also came from Grey Chapel. The circus started off in Grey Chapel. Yes, he recruited orphans from Grey Chapel, but I'm pretty sure he also like was from Grey Chapel himself. And I think that definitely would have been a motivator for him in joining Snapdragon, and it definitely explains why he is like so popular among the nobility and like the public, because it's he came from the public, right? He came from like the lower classes, and he's part of the nobility now, but he also bought that title, right? And he's kind of like, I feel like he is a bit of a success story in Artalis. I don't like his success because he exploited children to build his financial empire, but I feel like Artalis doesn't really see that. So, but yeah, the line, you've always been hungry for power and laurel since you crawled out of your hole in Grey Chapel. It's a very interesting line, and it does make me wonder if there's like prejudice in the apostles, right, against the lower classes. Like even though what they're claiming and what they're campaigning for, right, is like the rights of the lower class, it's very odd because the two people that we do have confirmed as Phantom Scythe apostles were Lauren's parents, Rachel and Alexander, and they were very well off. They didn't live that experience, right? They didn't live and know what it was like to live in Grey Chapel. Yeah, they could like see it, right? But there's a difference between growing up in these circumstances where it's just like observing it. And so yeah, they might have had some biases themselves, and this line, you crawled out of your hole in Grey Chapel, it's like, ooh, kind of towing the line there,
Yep. Which just shows like a lot of people who start out idealistic. I mean, I don't know if maybe 11 joined the Phantom Scythe for the wrong reason. Maybe he was never idealistic to begin with, and he just joined because he's a violent person, right? Maybe what? Do you remember which ones were from the Snapdragon? Do we know? No, we don't.
We don't know how many were from the Snapdragon, but we know that there are 4 original apostles. We don't know which ones. We know actually we know 7's one of them, and probably 4 is one of them, but I don't think we know the other 2.
Yeah. So anyway, so this guy he just might not be that idealistic. I mean, clearly his words don't seem that way.
Sorry, please go.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think he's I don't know who, I don't really have like a suspicion of which one yet, but I think he's someone from the palace, like someone much more wealthy, someone who's just like above it all. Because in one of the last episodes, I think it was the one before this, they had a conversation where they're saying like, most of you here haven't even been to Grey Chapel or seen what it's actually like down there. So for someone to be saying like, crawl out of the hole you came from, like I imagine it's someone who's very well off, who's never actually seen real poverty, like firsthand.
That's just something that strikes me about how the Phantom Scythe is organized, because a lot of the suspects that we have for like people who are like apostles and the leader, a lot of them are just like upper class characters. So like Stefan, Dakin, Tristan, even Herman and March, you know, none of them that we know of came from, you know, the South Shore. And so I find it a bit ironic that, you know, the leadership, right, are, you know, most likely just upper class people campaigning issues for the poor, yes, but in doing so, like actually like villainizing the poor and antagonizing the poor in the eyes of nobility, right? Because, you know, the lower income classes are associated to the Phantom Scythe because the Phantom Scythe, you know, claims to advocate for their rights, but the way the Phantom Scythe advocates is through violence, and so there's that inherent association between those two.
So I don't think it's surprising that the people we have as suspects are from the upper class, because I think that if you look at any like revolution, it does come from people who have the education and the resources to devote to that. Because if you're very poor and either you don't have an extensive education, and you're not going to get very far, you're like living hand to mouth, right? Yeah. You're concerned with basic subsistence. You don't have time and energy to devote to like radical causes or to idealism and to change the world, because you're just trying to feed yourself. So I think if you look across all movements, it's people who do have some measure of wealth and definitely education and privilege, so they can lead these movements.
Yeah, but I think the irony I'm trying to get at here is that it's ironic how it's like the upper class leading this movement, right? But, you know, and they claim that they're helping the lower class, right? But in doing so, they only bring down more consequences on the people that they claim to help, as we saw with the measures that were introduced in 110 and 111, you know, with the curfew and how the police will stop and like search anyone who they like, in quotations, is suspicious. But, you know, what does suspicious mean? And it's probably just going to be like, you know, the lower class people, and they're going to be deemed suspicious simply because of how they appear.
It's ironic too, because in most situations, like even in history, it is the rich people leading it, while it's the poor people who are out there actually getting the work done and getting hurt. Like their family are the ones who lose out, really, because then they lose their family members and they just get more poor because then they can't support themselves anymore. So I think it's like a very traditional kind of revolution, unfortunately, where the rich people are leading the poor into more devastation. It's just really ironic, I guess. But yeah, so I think we left off where it says all of them must be fools to trust, when you crawled out of the hole of Grey Chapel. And Apostle VII says, only took me a little initiative and transparency to sway our phantom's allegiance, protecting the poor against the noble tyrants, ironic, because that's who they are, claiming the rights we've been denied, the promise of a better and fairer world. All of that may be desirable, but our people have started losing hope. They've grown tired of waiting and abiding by the rules we once swore to break. They need to know where we are going, when they'll get what they've been fighting for. And again, what they've been fighting for, because the apostles don't actually do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure we don't know yet what he was planning on doing with the nitro. Like, he was planning on blowing something up and that would get the poor people more rights. How? I don't know, but we don't know what he was planning on blowing up, right? We have our suspicions, but
yeah, he's very powerful with his words, and you know, he's not right again, like, but he's convincing, you know, and just like from the way that he talks about what the Phantom Scythe has become, it's very like clear that this guy could easily sway many people to his side, you know. And the way he talks about like them as a collective, right, rather than like himself, right? He talks about the Phantom Scythe like they've grown tired, right, or like they need to know where we're going, right, you know. And I feel like he doesn't fully believe in these what he's saying, because he is someone who benefited from the exploitation of orphan children. So I'm like, you little snake.
Classic tyrant style. Yeah, and we see Apostle 9 say, I doubt you've given them much hope considering the absolute failure of your ridiculous operation. Everything is almost ready for the revolution. And we see the leader get a little bit restless here and start kind of fiddling with his pen.
It's a power play. It's great. It's visually, it's so beautiful because it just, it's just a little action and it's repeated and it just shows you his feelings.
Yeah, definitely. It's very striking too because it's very like black and white, and then you have like the red and gold on the wall, and then the gold pen. Like it's just very like, I don't know, very striking.
Yeah, and I believe the leader hasn't even said anything at this point, right? The leader's just been silent. So
yeah.
Yep.
And Apostle 5 says, if your followers want action, they'll get it regardless if your head is still attached to your body.
Direct.
Shots fired. And Apostle 7 retorts with, but it is not only about my partisans. I'm a publicly known and influential advocate for the lower classes. It's just like really on his high horse here.
Yeah. Trying to take the moral high ground. But yeah, this guy has to be Redcliffe. After the lines that Darcy was saying about like how
at the hospital.
Yeah, the hospital, how like how his ball is a fundraiser to make a hospital on the South Shore, But I feel like I still think that this is not genuine from him because again, he exploited children. Like, so, dude.
I remember when we argued about that I mean, most kids would think it's like a blast to join the circus, and he took them off the streets where they were not being taken care of. So I argued that until I saw how he interacted with Bella because it was very abusive.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to say it's possible that he is, I guess maybe not so possible. I was going to say it's possible that he treats Bella that way and he's nicer to the other ones, but yeah, I can't really see it.
Yeah.
I guess it could still be true that he could be emotionally abusive and still have given them, food and shelter.
Yeah. I think with Redcliffe, what he does is a facade because he's trying to build this image of himself, right? And he's trying to gain popularity, and he uses this popularity as like, a weapon against like the leader or like the nobles, right? Because like he is arguably like just a much more popular figure within the Phantom Scythe as well as within the nobility, and that popularity gives him power because people are willing to follow him. And so I think he's just kind of playing the game right now because it's like he is doing good things, but why is he doing these good things? And I believe that right now with what we've been given, that he's doing it to gain popularity. But,
which honestly,
inside he's just really a shitty person.
If it's just to gain popularity, right? And if he wasn't being like emotionally manipulative and stuff, which we've seen him do with Bella, then okay, so like fine, you rescued 100 children and you're feeding like, I don't know, you're building 3 hospitals. Like, I'm like, okay, so you want to be Mr. Popular and you'll have an ego? Fine. Like a lot of rich people donate money and it's like, yeah, you want your picture in the paper? That's great. You donated $1 million. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think, I can't remember what the word is. But it's interesting to me that, especially, I was just thinking about it when you brought it up, because like,
thank you so much to my current patrons: Susie, Lady Libras, Lily, Jenny, Haley, Molly, Veronica, Emily, Jojo, Songs, Anne Rose, Priya, Alexa, Misty, Joanne, Patty, Imelda, Esther, a bunch of people, Tori, Poppy, Marie, Emily, Jane, Judd, Kieran, Kay, Lily, Beckett, Miranda, Sadie, Kelly, Danielle, Teresa, Nostalgia, Tony. The support is truly appreciated.
It's like on the tip of my tongue. I literally cannot remember it right now, but that's like what I see for like philanthropy. There we go. I didn't pronounce it correctly, but philanthropy. Yeah, that's what I see what Apostle 7 does. So yeah, he's just doing it to maintain a good public image because it's what gives him power.
Definitely. And it's definitely like a classic like dictator kind of like a move that a lot of people see. And I feel like we've seen it in recent history too, with people being very good at being persuasive and being very good and fluent in their speech, but they don't actually mean anything that they're saying. Like you said, like they just want the followers and they want the money to back them up and the popularity. So I feel like he like fits all those stereotypes of like a rich noble kind of. Yeah, it says murdering me goes against the Phantom Scythe's cause and interests. So do you keep, sorry, I know what that was. I thought that was my dog. And Apostle 9 says, so does keeping you alive at this point.
11, right? I think so.
Oh yeah, sorry, 11, yes.
I would love to see a roast battle between the apostles. They're like, dang.
Besides, kill me, he says, and you lose the alliances I formed with our sympathizers and benefactors outside of Ardalis. Must I remind you who you owe the funding of all your respective activities to? I'm not stupid, dear comrades.
I love the use of comrades in this.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. We're waiting for it.
I think the funding he's referring to is, I don't think it's necessarily his private funding. I think it's the alliances that he does that other people donate.
I find this very interesting because, you know, another country was brought up, Saren, in episode 110. And I don't really remember the context for it, but season 3 is definitely trying to establish more about the world outside of Ardalis, you know, and this makes me interested because there were some theories about, like, you know, where did Lisbeth come from? And some people think that, you know, she's actually from a country who wants to like annex Ardalis or something. And this country is annexing Ardalis by letting them have like a violent revolution that is incited by like the nobility just neglecting the people, right? And so that leaves Ardalis in a weak state, which leaves them perfect for being overtaken.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm not stupid, dear comrades. I've made sure the web of our political and economic ties stay strong so long as I am there to control it, which is just very manipulative.
Very calculated.
Yeah. He says, too many pieces of the chessboard we've built over the last decade depend on me for you to afford my death. Do not make the mistake of thinking you're irreplaceable. The seats of those who thought so are now empty. And we see the leader, what is he, like, clicking his pen? It says tack. It's just done with it. And he says, enough. Well played, 7th.
Also, 3 looks kind of cute in this panel. Like, just a little smile, you know, it doesn't look creepy from far away.
It looks like a cartoon. Well, yeah. All right. So yeah, he's finally stepping in and he's intimidating. You see he's at the head of the table. Everyone's turned their head to look at him. He's finally like, he's that leader, right? He really is. Like he's finally getting all that attention.
You know what this panel reminds me of? It reminds me when Apostle VII did that, like, it was the same like fisheye to Bella, right? You know, it was very intimidating. You know, it felt like they were looming over them, right? So like here it's like in episode 91, it felt like, you know, Apostle 7 looming over Bella, but now it's the leader looming over 7.
Yeah, and he says, your cunning has always been admirable. And everyone's looking, they're like thump thump. You see 9 and 11 and someone in a green mask. You know, they're anxious because when the leader talks, apparently it means something and he's intimidating to them. And he gets up, big thump. The view is from the bottom, just superb positioning, superb lighting. He's so threatening. And he says, but your arrogance makes you forget who you are dealing with. And that's him, right? And he's like, oh, I wouldn't dare, leader. Apostle 7 says, you and I are old friends. Okay, old friends.
You know,
oh.
Saturdays for the boys. Yeah, when this goes public, people are going to ship them like no tomorrow.
I was thinking Snapdragon, but
it's like it's giving, you know, friends to lovers to rivals, you know, it's like the perfect concoction. And the mask too, you know, the ambiguity, that tension.
I think you can have that without the lovers part. I think like very close friends is good enough, you know, like
yeah.
And the leader just like shuts it down. Like he's like, I don't care that we were old friends. That's not important anymore. I don't have any of that bond left. Shut it. Just rude. Wow. And he turns around with those gleaming eyes. Somehow his face is black and his eyes are gleaming. He's some version of Darth Vader or something. He's like, the end justifies the means, right? That's how we agree to ally ourselves with criminals, to become criminals ourselves. The sacrifice we decided to make when the Phantom Scythe was born out of the Snapdragon's ashes. It's like, oh, that's so nice of you. I'm sacrificing myself to become terrorist.
Yeah, it's like the line, the end justifies the means, right? I feel like that is a quote. I feel like he's quoting someone. And I feel like that quote would either be like something he was told 10 years ago by Apostle VII, but also maybe by like Lauren's parents, you know, because, you know, the mention of like old friends, right? Well, Lauren's parents were in the Snapdragon and they were original apostles, so they would have known the leader personally, and the leader had to order their deaths. So, you know, you and I are old friends. I think that also is partly why the leader was like, bro, cut it off, like shut it, you know, because, you know, it brings back, you know, memories of Rachel and Alexander. And so like even like the end justifies the means, right? I feel like that could very much be applied to the situation because they were friends. Like the leader was friends with the Sinclairs, but the leader still had to kill them. The ends justify the means.
But you know what's interesting? Also, you see like how much he's convinced himself that this is all for the right purpose. And I think a lot of people who do bad things convince themselves that they're doing it for right reasons. Like, you know, oh, ultimately it's for the good.
Yeah. And this line is like, oh, okay, so that's how we agree to ally ourselves with criminals, to become criminals ourselves. That line, it's like, it makes me also think like, yeah, leader is definitely like higher class, right? Because he didn't consider himself a criminal before, right? But now he does.
Well, that's the thing though. He says he was old friends with Radcliffe and he was from Great Chapel, so maybe he's a Great Chapel person. So obviously you can be not be a criminal, right? Like they're just
the Circus Royale is formed before before the Snapdragon pamphlets came into the timeline. So is most likely that Radcliffe was starting to accumulate wealth with the circus, and then he met the other Snapdragon people, joined their cause, and he just got a ton more money. But
could be, but it's also possible they were friends when they were really young.
It kind of like makes me wonder too, just the way he says it. Like, I feel like Apostle VII has a lot more power than like we kind of realized, because it seems like the leader really tolerates this banter, and I don't think he would have tolerated that from another apostle. Like, maybe. I feel like they are pretty good friends from like back in the day, like Snapdragon time, or like you said, like back in Great Chapel, because he really is tolerating his nonsense here.
And yeah, I want to like get to the next line because I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so Apostle VII says, you know, he waves his hand. He's like, yep, becoming monsters to fight the bigger monster. For our monarchs have been killing more people than we ever would. I know the mantra. So this is apparently their internal justification.
Yeah, so this line is really interesting to me because the term monster is very closely associated to another character that we all know and love, some of us.
I was like, whoa, what's coming out of Fwoot's mouth?
So that would be Kieran White, you know, our boy, local monster on the street. And I find this line interesting because, you know, just with the rhetoric that Sandman shared in episode 90 about how, like, you know, if Kieran doesn't do the job, then, you know, someone else will. And, you know, Kieran stays in the Phantom Scythe and he continues to do what he does because he believes that he can take down the leader through, you know, his position. You know, there's a line from episode 10 where it's like, if you do everything, it's along the lines of like, if you do everything that the leader tells you to do, that's the like only way to get close to him. And that's how Kieran has gone closer to the leader, to slowly uncover his identity. But in doing so, Kieran has sacrificed, like, you know, parts of his humanity, and he has done like unspeakable horrible things, right? And he's killed like hundreds of people. Like I'm pretty sure he's like killed more people than the Phantom Sith combined. That was dropped somewhere. So yeah, he has done a lot of like just unspeakable acts, and he justifies it by like, it's going to get me closer to the leader. And that was a very interesting parallel that I thought of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. They're both, the end justifies the means. Questionable. And yeah, now the leader says, we've agreed to commit unspeakable things for the sake of something greater. And once again, great lighting. He's holding the pen in front of him. He's like the white contrast behind him. But there was one thing in all those years that I'd never overlooked or forgiven. Then the pen like is cracked in half, or he opens it up and ink spilling all over the place. Betrayal. And the ink is dripping down as the head of the pen is falling down, which is a great symbolism for someone's head being chopped off and blood falling all over the place. So tell me seventh. And it lands on the floor. And it rolls.
That is more shipping material. So tell me seventh. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Maybe I am the leader in Apostle VII shipper. Maybe I am the problem.
I don't see it shippy. I see drama. I see angst. Yes. Yeah. About shippy, Why would I
like tension, unspoken tension, unrecognized, unacknowledged tension.
Yeah, being old friends. I mean, you're threatening your friend with death. It's pretty intense. And Apostle VII, like, he's been looking down and he's still looking down. So I think it's a little bit of like, he's losing his luster. He's like, of course, no one forgot what happened to the first and the second, which is like, I'm just showing you that whoever, probably Alexander and Rachel, right? They were very close to the leader and he still got rid of them.
I really expected the leader to stab him in the neck with that pen. Like, that's what I thought was coming next. Like, I was almost like, oh, there it is. Like,
yeah, I also find it interesting that, because this is most likely Alexander and Rachel, like, they're the only apostles that we know to have gone killed off as a pair, right? And I find it interesting that they were the first and the second, so they were very close to the leader, like perhaps even closer than Seven. And I'm just saying, who was Dawkins' best friend? It was Alexander. So yeah. But also, if it was Tristan, Alexander is his brother,
I don't know. It's really bad. I mean, like, the leader sounds like a horrible person. Sorry. It's
if it was Lauren's parents, like, I don't see how you could kill your friends like that you've gone through so much and you've started a whole group and revolution together, and then you just kill them.
Well, I think it was like the ends justify the means, right? And it was like the shut it, right? We are old friends from the leader. Or when Apostle VII said we are old friends, and leader was like, shut it. It was, and then he followed it up with like, the ends justify the means, right? I feel like, that's just something that, as Mindy was saying, he's just committed himself to justify everything that he's had to do. And so, like, I think, the leader, his mindset is that there are more important things than my personal relationships. And that being like evolution.
Sure, which has totally achieved your goals. Yeah, you're killing lots of people. It has really made life better for them.
Yeah, but I also think that's why the leader has taken it so slow, because the leader has, done so much, right? That like, he can't go back. And so
he has to keep going to justify himself.
But he also has to make sure that all that death and all that sacrifice wasn't for nothing. So he needs everything to be successful, and that is why he's playing the long game, so he can be careful in how he proceeds. Because when you're like Apostle VII, who rushes and it's just like, and doesn't have the patience for this kind of revolution, it ends up with the factory blowing up and the police on your tail.
I don't know. I don't know I obviously don't think the leader has great tactics either, but whatever.
I don't think the leader has great tactics either, but like, it's the leader has kind of like led the apostles for so long, and yeah, I like coming from like the perspective of like Phantom Scythe people, it's definitely like, yeah, this is super frustrating that this is taking years, but I think also like the leader is, from we've seen from this conversation, like just the battle of kind of like wits between Apostle VII and the leader, it's like the leader is very calculating, and again, he probably wants that sacrifice to me and stuff.
Yeah. So Apostle VII tries to save himself, and he says, but unlike for them, getting rid of me would only dig a hole in your resources, and the Phantom Scythe wouldn't be able to recover from it before its members turn on you. And the leader's walking around past the bulletin board with a lot of notes, the map and other notes. And he says, your threats do not faze me. I faced worse than the insurrection you're prophesizing. And I'd much rather kill you with my own hands than let you endanger my people with your schemes. Whatever. I don't really agree with the way he's stating it, but fine. But yeah, I faced worse, right? This is kind of like a personal admission. What has he faced? What's happened to him?
Yeah. I also wonder. Yeah.
Like,
there was also that line earlier about how like, people also believe that they were untouchable, right? And now they're like, seats are empty, and they're like referring to the other apostles. I'm like, that kind of makes me wonder, like, did Rachel and Alexander do something that made them think that they were untouchable? Because I personally kind of hope that they were not like the perfect little angels that they kind of seem to be, like, oh, we're against like the Allendale train station bombing. You were a part of a terrorist group. Like, you guys had to have done something. And I also just
I don't think because they didn't like the Phantom Scythe, right? They didn't want
but like still, I feel like they had to have been, I hope at least they were accountable for like something, just to give more like moral ambiguity to Lauren's family. Because Lauren was like, she felt guilty about it, like herself in episode 93, and Kieran had to be like, well, it was them, not you. And even then they were like against the bombing anyways. So it's like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like her parents are a little too perfect. Like they can be they can be the first and second apostles of a terrorist group, but they can still like get away with it and still be like, morally good.
I hear.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, they're not guilt-free. Like, they had to have like come to the conclusion that it's gone too far or something like that, and that's why they got killed off. If they wanted to like turn themselves in or turn the members in, because they realized that what they're doing is not helping anyone, and in fact that they've actually hurt the people that they're supposedly trying to protect. I feel like that's more likely what happened, and I liked that they felt guilty about it, but we'll never actually know.
Now that you bring it up, there was like a whole like 2-week window where they could have gone to the police and just given them like everything that they knew about the Phantom Scythe, because like maybe they thought by not telling them they would like survive or something, but I feel like they should know, like, oh yeah, we're gonna get killed off soon.
I think maybe for them it was also they didn't want to betray their friends. Maybe they were like, well, they went too far, but like I don't think to then go and like give them up, I think that would have been too much emotionally because they were close.
I mean, their friends also just killed like 300 people, so
yeah.
But kind of, and blew up the whole train station. So I don't know.
Leader had no trouble getting rid of them, but they probably had trouble getting rid of the other way around. They have feelings left, I would assume.
But yeah, so like that's very interesting, Ocean, that you bring that up, like how they like didn't report that, because that I didn't think about that before, and now I'm like, Rachel, Alex, you guys kind of messed up. Imagine like Purple Hyacinth regularly. It's like, that one meme where it's like a really thick book, but Purple Hyacinth, if Rachel and Alexander just told the police who was in the Phantom Scythe, it's like a magazine,
Yeah, no, it's kind of like similar to like Kim and Will discovering that Lauren is part of Lune. Only Lauren, hasn't killed hundreds of innocent people. It's kind of like a weird like similarity, which makes me like wonder what they did to get killed off, because I can't remember the episode, but there's like almost like a flashback to when Lauren was a kid and she remembered her parents and they seemed like distressed. Maybe I'm making that up.
Yeah.
I think you're thinking of episodes. I think it's 78. No, not 70, 76, maybe. It's either 75 or 76, and it was the scene is Sandman telling Lauren about her parents being apostles, and the flashback scene is him like overhearing their conversation about the leader.
Okay, yeah.
So the 7th, we focus on Hunt's face now, and he says, "Then let's make a deal. You got an army of spies and assassins at hand to get rid of me the second you wish to. In the meantime, let me atone for my mistake by sharing the preparations and resources we put up in the last months. Nitroglycerin, weapons, trade deals to ensure our continuous supply during the revolution, and so on." And I think he's stumping on the floor.
Okay, this feels very interesting because I literally can't tell if that's like the tip of his shoe or if it's like a peg.
I think it's a shoe, but
yeah. Okay, because there was like a hot moment where I thought it was like, oh my god, it's a peg. We're missing a foot.
Yeah. And let you conspire behind our so the leader says, and let you conspire behind our backs and design your escape plan on your free time. And the 7 says, "I've been exposed, so there's no need for me to keep hiding. I'm well aware that if you decided to chop my head off, it would be rolling before I could even start to run." Okay, yeah, that's very blunt and bold.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like when I was reading this, I was like, leader, don't do it. Don't do it. Just kill him. And maybe that's like my personal vendetta against him because, just of what's been implied, his relationship with Bella, and Bella's my favorite character. And actually, no, I wouldn't want the leader to kill him. I want Bella to kill him. I want that knife right in his neck, The revenge. Oh, yes. I want her to kill him. So yes, leader, keep him alive.
Yeah, and the leader's approaching him and he says, "You are not wrong." And the 7 says, "We've worked together since the very start of the Phantom Scythe. We shared similar views, similar anger. Although we disagree on some topics and methods, we are still all here for the same thing. Let us start over and pool our resources for the final stretch." He's really making a case for his life. I think he's desperate. I think he's playing cool, but I think he's really desperate.
Definitely, and he's feeding into his ego when he says like, "Oh, like you'd be able to kill me before I could even start to run." Like, he's just like, "Don't even worry about me. Like, I'm just in the background."
He's flattering him. Yeah.
Again, he's also talking about like, it's not like me against you, it's us, right? It's like we want the same things. We share all these views, right? And it's like tricky, it's like way with words, very manipulative.
He's a good orator. Yeah, debater. And now we have the leader kind of looming over him. Let's see, power position. He's the one in power. The 7's still sitting. And the leader says, "We've been working together for 10 years. I've always had a deep respect and gratefulness for your contributions. You're right. Getting rid of you now will be rash and counterproductive. But hear me out." So I have to say, the leader also has oratory skills. You can't be, if you're like a dictator and everyone hates you, you're in trouble, right? Like you'll be assassinated. So here you see that he's giving him some accolades and, credit where credit is due. So he can't be completely horrible. And he stabs at this point the paper that's in front of him. And it's written in Russian, apparently says military operations. So I personally,
oh my god, are you serious? It got translated? Oh my god.
I was gonna write it out, but then apparently Anna translated it because I'm learning Russian. But it says, I can read it. It says Stvennoye Bielo. But what's it called? The fact that thing that's written in Russian and that they say comrade. I mean, I've always thought the Phantom Scythe was a hard.
Yeah, definitely allegory for communism. Yeah, an allegory to communism. Absolutely.
Started out as realistic, ended up killing billions of people. So, yeah, and a lot of spying going on too, right? So he stabs it with a pen. The second you step out of line again, none of your alliances and fine words will be of any use to you. I do not need to kill you to make you suffer. Ooh. Very scary.
The lean back to like, of Apostle VII and the next I'm like, dang, this guy, like, oh.
So you interpret it as like, oh, I'm being cool? Because I interpret it like, oh my God, you're getting too close to my face. I'm getting scared.
No, I saw the guy, like, you know, the way he just acted around Bella, I think even like with the leader, because he knows that he has won up the leader because of just all his connections and, you know, again, the web that he has built. And now it's kind of like, you know, his investments and his connections, they're paying off because even the leader recognizes that Apostle VII is just such a crucial part of the Phantom side that they can't get rid of him, you know. And
I think that's a little scarier though.
Yeah. But like still, like even he has gotten a second chance, unlike everyone else. He has won, basically.
Well, so he thinks, but he's you know, he leans back, he's like, of course, and leader says, in the meantime, and he snaps his fingers, and 2 guards, you know, dressed in those assassin uniforms come and grab him by the arms, and Stan's like, what? And 3 is that malicious grin, and he's like, I will take great care of him, leader. I'm so excited. Oh dear. Torture time, probably. And we hear a thump. The leader is still blank and expressionless, doesn't care about his old friend being dragged away behind him into this dungeon, and just proceeds, while he's still being dragged away, proceeds with the next order of business. Yeah, he's heartless. Like, 4th, how is the search for Abel Sandman going? And everyone's looking, if you notice, everyone's looking at 7 being dragged away, and he's not even looking. I think that he's hardened his heart so much to everything. Like, he's like, I don't care about, he doesn't care about people, feelings, people's lives.
Like, it's not the first time he's had to, like, you know, just leave someone, right? You know, what happened to all the other apostles, you know, dead. So it's probably
I need them by his hand, right?
Yeah. But also, like, he's just, there is a moment, you know, where he like kind of like just waits a moment. So I wonder like what he's contemplating there. And then he goes to address 4th.
I definitely took it more as like it's hard for him, but he can't show his weakness in front of all the other apostles, because I would imagine it would be hard for him to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, he's been with him, you know, for at least 10 years now, and clearly there's some kind of relationship there. I don't think it would just be work related. So I feel like it would still be hard for him, and that's why he's not watching him get dragged off to be tortured.
Yeah.
Well, that's a more sympathetic view. I don't know. I think the leader's kind of like gone insane already at this point. But really, we don't know until we meet him and we get to know him. Like, we just don't know. Yeah. So he's like, how's the search for Abel Sandman? And the 4th says, my men have located him. He managed to escape. We still do not know who he is working with yet. Okay. So, you know, he's working on something, as we know from last episode. And then leader, his crazy glowy eyes, says, find them. Spare no one.
But yeah, like, Kieran, new job for you coming up. Would that be like awkward for Kieran? Because he literally killed like Sandman stuff. Oh no. Oh my god. Okay, so Sandman kind of like picked up that he was being hunted, right? You know, he knew the assassin was after him last episode. So when Kieran comes, he's probably gonna know that it's like the purple heist, and he's gonna be like, and he's probably gonna tell Kieran how he killed. Oh my god. Okay, so Sandman tells Kieran how Kieran killed his daughter, and Kieran feels really guilty about that, right? And Kieran hesitates on killing Sandman, which gives Sandman time to escape, which means Kieran fails, right? Because Sandman is very
capable.
Yeah, good at fighting for an old man. I can't remember the word. But yeah, that's gonna turn like the spotlight to Bella, because, you know, she has been slowly like just making her way up to Kieran's position, right? And she is trying to prove herself. So that'd be like, yo, the purple hyacinth failed, and this might be Bella's time to overtake him.
I kind of had like a fun theory that Kieran was going to start telling Lauren about his hit list and like the people that he's supposed to go after, and he's going to go after Sandman, and they're going to kind of like fake his death and hide him somewhere.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's kind of my hope for the whole scenario.
Yeah, I want Sandman to survive. I think he turned out to be such a good character and like badass, apparently. Like doing, I don't know what he's doing. I want to find out, but it looks like he's trying to do something.
Yeah, a year and a half ago, I would have been so happy to hear that Kieran was going after Sandman. Now, I would not be happy to hear that. I like episode 90 got me to switch up on Sandman. I like hated him before, but now I'm like, he's such
Pretty
a good
amazing
character.
Yeah, like I'm fully expecting, like right now, I'm like, oh my god, the leader is like beyond redemption. But I'm fully expecting when that mask is taken away, I'm like, oh, leader, my little puppy dog.
No, because the leader, they're gonna make the leader
hot.
They're gonna like the leader's gonna have like some scars or something, but it's gonna make him like hot, you know.
I don't want to feel
people are gonna forgive him because they simp for him, you know, the way I forgive Bella because she's hot.
There's always some like tragic backstory to the main villain that's just like, damn, like Johan from Unholy Blood. Like I felt for the guy, like I didn't like completely feel bad for him, but I'm like, damn, that's really sad, and I'm kind of expecting this for the leader here.
The only character I think I will never like switch up on is Apostle VII.
Okay,
that man is like, no, I will never forgive him, you know. Like my, like, you know how like sometimes you'll like think about like, you know, like little scenarios in your head before you go to sleep. One of my comfort scenarios is Bella stabbing him, like, you know. That's what brings me happiness.
Awesome. Well, Fwoot, you have more things to bring you happiness, as you can know.
Yeah,
your favorite character who you
I know, oh my god, man, I was manifesting before this episode, and then we got it. So okay, so we cut to black, and then we cut to a new area which we have not seen before, and there's some like neon lights, which when I saw it I was like, oh, this is definitely also inspired by Arcane, because there's been a few more like influences, I think, from the TV show Arcane on Purple Hyacinth. And one part that really stuck out to me previously was some of like the monsters that played Lauren when she was having her panic attack in episode 112, I think. Yeah. And so that was very reminiscent of hallucinations that another one of the characters has. And it was like a new style to PH, so around the time that episode would have been produced would have been around the time that, you know, Arcane came out. So I was like, I'm connecting some dots here. But yeah, so this setting reminds me of the underground of Arcane. So Zon, as they call it in the show. And you know,
really
this
cool.
is I can't say for sure that it was inspired by that, but there were some visual similarities. Sorry, yeah. But
I think it's really cool that it's like associated with the underworld, because it also gives me like a really strong like underworld vibes from like Lore Olympus, like the neon lights, like the purples and pinks and everything like that in the underworld. So I think it's cool that there's like those like two kind of like connections with like the underworlds.
Yeah. And like, sorry, yeah, so we've heard a bit about like the underworld before, the criminal underworld, and I would assume it's in the South Shore, but I can't say for sure. It might be like some of the more westward districts, so like 7, like Precinct 7, but who knows where it is on the map. But yeah, so criminal underworld, and we cut to Kieran. You know, he's got his hood on, you know, still got his katana, and it looks like he's following someone, and that person is Ryan Flemings. And there's a short flashback to one of the season 1 episodes where we meet Belladonna, and it was when she was at the bar with Ryan Flemings, and he says, so it's true, Onslow, McTrevor, and Blakesley were all arrested, and those were the other Lune convicts. And Kieran says to himself, now Flemings, what else are you up to?
So do you think he was following Flemings, or he just was walking around and he happened to see him and then he decided to follow him?
I think he was following him. Like he was doing more like investigations on him, especially since Elvira Lloyd got arrested. So yeah.
Okay.
He sees some bruises, and you know, he's walking past some crates, and then someone says, under a sign that says lead, which is like, ooh, I don't know if it's leader. Ooh. Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah, so some guy says, hey, isn't that the purple hyacinth? And this surprised me because in episode 5 people recognize Kieran as the purple hyacinth, but he's not really wearing a mask. And I was wondering whether this would be something that would get retconned in the story, because personally I'm surprised that people would recognize him, you know that face, right? And I'm also like, I was surprised that, like, you know, why would they let people know this, right? This is like the best assassin in the Phantom Scythe, right? You know, if one of these dudes got arrested, right, then like they could just sell out Kieran, right, you know, for like their own freedom or like a lesser sentence, because they would. Yeah, like I think that they would exchange, like the APD would exchange someone's freedom, you know, for like the identity of the purple hyacinth. So I'm surprised that, you know, this is just common knowledge for like lower gutter people, or lower like PS people, gutter snipes. So the person says, it's been a while since we've seen him in the underworld. So Kieran has not been here in a while. And this dude's companion says he looks all roughed up, and the person says probably because he failed his mission to kill Lune. And that also surprised me. I'm like, how did they know this? Like, what? I was like, dang. And like the APD has spies, right, in the PS, and they have multiple spies. But like, if this is just common knowledge that these like random dudes on the street know, like, how did the APD not know? I'm like, wow. I'm like, whoa. So that surprised me. And then Kieran arrives at a door, and I can't really read the sign. It looks like it says Sam's. Yeah. And I don't really know what that symbol is there, but there's something in pink.
I thought it was a beer keg, a beer.
Maybe there's like no handle. Yeah, so he arrives at a door, and he reaches to open it, and there's like a doom, and like Kieran gets like surprised, and he's like, what the hell? He doesn't say that, but he's like, you know, just an expression on his eyes, like he furrows his brows, and he slowly opens the door to find Capri Sun Ryan Flemings, aka Ryan Flemings with got golden viper venomed.
Yikes. They are good at drawing grotesque features. It's like zombie movies.
So yeah, Kieran is standing over Ryan Fleming's a deceased body, and he frowns. And when I saw this, I was like, oh my god, because I actually got spoiled for it, unfortunately, because like someone was like, oh my god, Bella. And it's like, there's what? Yeah. Like before I saw this, and then I saw Ryan Flemings get killed, and I was like, oh my god.
I'm seeing my love soon.
It's been a year. Like I had to prepare myself, you know. And so Kieran frowns, and there's a
year since we've seen her.
Yeah, it has.
Wow. Oh, well, I'm sorry for you, Fwoot.
I know, because I'm pretty sure like the anniversary of Bill Orsi. Oh, okay. So yeah, the anniversary of Bill Orsi for non-fast pass is April 5th. Don't ask me why I know this. Okay. And it is March 17th as we're recording this. So yeah. So there's a thud, and Kieran looks over, and someone says, want to help me move the body like good old times. And you scroll down, and it's the goddess herself, you know, the icon, the living icon, the breathing, you know, the myth, the legend herself, Belladonna Davenport.
Looking smashing.
She is. The blood on her face, you know, her hands are hella bloody too.
Mm-hmm.
She might be wearing the same coat that she was wearing when she went to see Darcy and Apostle VII, but there's no fur lining on the inside of her sleeves, and the coat looks a little greener, so it's probably not the same coat. But then she's like, so yeah, want to help me move the body like good old times, Kieran. And I was like, damn, I wish you would ask me to help her move a corpse, you know?
Oh boy. Well, that Bella. I'm excited to see her. I hope we get more of her, you know?
Yeah, next episode. Okay, because like every single episode, like they show us something at the end, right? That's detached from like the main conversation. And then they cut off to something different, you know, this better, I swear, the next episode better pick off here. I'll cry if it doesn't. Okay, but like, yeah. So, you know, the death of Ryan Fleming's, it makes me think Elvira is going to get killed off before she can tell anything to the police, because that's what happened to McTrevor, you know?
Right.
So
and Kieran was the one who killed them, so that would make sense that would be his next assignment.
Yeah. Especially if she's put in the tower. But maybe they probably like amped up the tower security after the tower murders, right? So maybe we get to see Bella and Kieran infiltrate the tower together. You know,
you just like, you don't care about all those poor guards. You just want them to get together.
I want to see Bella kill people. It's hot.
What?
Okay, this is like
all your morals fly out the window for Bella.
I know, Mindy. You had your Loki moment in
no one had to die for Loki to look at each other in the eyes, you know.
A whole factory had to get blown up. Mindy, correct yourself.
This is kind of fun.
You Fwoot. Like.
I'm just saying, you know, Ryan Fleming's I would kill off Ryan Fleming's any day just for that one panel of Belladonna. Like, well, looks so good.
So is ready to throw wives out the window for Bella.
I would. Like, I will break into the tower. Okay, I'll break into the tower so Bella doesn't have to get her hands dirty again. I'll break into the tower and kill Elvira. Poor Bella, you know?
Tower couple here.
Exactly.
You're taking away her fun. She likes to do that. Remember, she likes.
Okay, maybe she can teach me. I'm just saying, you know, throwing ideas out there.
I think you should go off in your little evil Bella role.
Yeah. So she looks so good here, but also like
she does. She looks amazing.
Good old times. I'm like, what does that mean?
I think Kieran had to pretend he liked what he did.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny because like when I read that line, I just think of like Kieran, like scrawny teenage Kieran and Bella like struggling to pull a body out of a room or something. Like they're like, you're not pulling hard enough. Like I'm the one doing all the no, you're not doing all the I'm doing all the and then they like try to like lift the person up and they like just fall over, you know. She's probably super fit from you know, being trained in the circus, but you know, malnourished orphan Kieran's like oh
dear. Yeah, but you were right, they were totally bigger like babies.
Yeah, but yeah, I love their dynamics so much. I literally like, I'm so hyped for this because I really hope the next episode picks up with them, because Bella and Kieran is probably like my favorite relationship, like not romantic relationship, but like platonic relationship in Purple Hyacinth. I love their dynamics so much. And like episode 72 is so underrated. Like I love the way they like just interact with each other, you know?
I love your enthusiasm.
Yeah, it makes me very happy.
Awesome. Well, do we have anything else to say on this episode before we close out?
R.I.P. Flemings, I guess, you know. It definitely feels like Bella's, you know, closing up all the ties, or like the Phantom Scythe is really just taking care of all the ties to the factory, because you know they incapacitated Apostle VII, they killed off Flemings, you know, Elvira's kind of next. Yeah. But also like, okay, so we got Darcy, you know, we have Bella, you know, just wondering when we bring them together.
We have the blue-haired person.
The blue-haired person too. When do they come back? You know, I just
know
for reasons.
Together, all of them next episode. Just jump.
Yeah, manifesting it right now. I'm already setting out the candles as we speak.
The colorful peoples. Bubble head people.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, wait, Darcy just has brown hair. Never mind.
She has purple eyes though. So we got purple, blue, pink. A win for the bisexuals.
Yeah, I thought this was a great episode. It was really, really long and full of a lot of juicy details. I love the author's note at the end too. Imagine if the apostles and the leader played poker together. It'll be the hardest game ever.
Yeah, they both have metal. METTLE.
Yeah. A lot of lore in this episode, like a lot of just, exposition about where the Phantom Scythe is. Probably my favorite takeaway has to be, divorced parents, leader, and Apostle VII, and then their two kids, Bella and Kieran.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about. I'm happy we're finally getting to see the Phantom Scythe from the inside. They're always like the big bad, so it's good to see that was like off screen. So now I'm glad we're seeing their inner workings. Because I think we mentioned this at some point. Like, there's a lot of loose ends, a lot of mysteries. So it does kind of need to start answering some of the questions already. So by like getting into the mind of the Phantom Scythe and getting to hear their interactions and decision-making process firsthand, it's giving that to us. Like it's no longer an esoteric mystery that's outside of the screen. It's finally like becoming part of the story.
I think something that has like I've been thinking about for a while since like episode 91 is that I'm kind of like, I don't know, the way like exposition and just information is given on Apostle VII, just I find it interesting because the identity of Apostle VII was kind of like the objective of the first season, right? That was the overall goal that Lune was working towards. Like the bigger goal was finding the leader, but contained to that season, it was Lauren and Kieran trying to figure out who Apostle VII was, right? And so they went to they found people who were connected to Apostle VII, and so they went to interrogate them to find information on Apostle VII, and that was what they're working towards. But in season 2, they are still working towards that. However, they do have to take a detour because of that information that they find on the factory. And so the season becomes less focused on finding out who Apostle VII is and more like finding where this factory is and what's going on with it, for this like revolution that Apostle VII is planning. And because the focus kind of shifted away from Apostle VII's identity, we didn't really see Lune really working towards that goal anymore. But what I find ironic, or just, I guess not really ironic, but what I find just interesting again is that in the time that like Lune hasn't been completely focused on Apostle VII's identity, we basically got it confirmed, and it was just like all in scenes completely unrelated to Lune. When Bella went to go see Apostle VII, and then in this meeting scene, where the apostles were all talking.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm super excited as always for next week. And thank you so much for joining Ocean and Fwoot. It was delightful as always.
Yes.
I had so much fun. I love this episode.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a good night, ladies.
You too. Good night.